Hello guys, my name is Vairav Sudarshan and thank you for the introduction, Dr. Chandramohan. So I've been working with various cricket teams for almost a few years, and as Chandramohan sir told, I've been working with Pondicherry Cricket Association, and I've been working with a team called Ruby Tirchi Warriors, which is a part of Tamil Nadu Premier League. And I also work for another cricket club in Chennai, which is one of the most elite club in Tamil Nadu circle. So I'm here to share all my experience about a specific injury that happens to cricketers. So it is called as named as side strain. So which is basically an internal oblique injury. So which happens, and today I'm going to talk about how to address that, how to assess it, what all the mechanism that happens during that injury, and how do you rehabilitate. And the major thing that is going to be coming into a sports that you have to take into consideration is how to make the player to get back into that sport. So that is one major thing that you have to consider every time when you're going to treat a sports person. So let's start with the introduction. What is side strain? Side strain is basically an internal oblique muscle tear, so which happens for fast bowlers. This particular injury is majorly occurring in cricketers. Other than cricket, we can also encounter this specific injury in golfers and javelin throwers. Such sports will also have this kind of injury because they have a lot of trunk work to be done during that particular sport. So side strain in cricketers, it commonly occurs for fast bowlers. Other than fast bowlers, from some freak fall or any dive during trying to catch the ball or trying to stop the ball might also have such injury. But most commonly, it affects for fast bowlers. So that is because they have a very ballistic, and they'll be having a very forceful movement of the trunk happening. So due to that, this injury is most common in fast bowlers. So and the mechanism of the fast bowlers injury is like it increases the ball velocity vigorously and pulling the front arm down, causing the strain. So when they release the ball, at that point of time, they generate energy from the trunk or the core. So during that time, I was talking about injury happening in fast bowlers because of that vigorous force that is happening during the delivery. The next point that I was about to tell you all is the age factors and the age thing that happens for fast bowlers. Like you see, most of the researchers have found that people under the age of 24 are more prone for this kind of side strain. And also 25 to 29 years of old people are less likely to have this kind of injury. But this particular injury happens during not most commonly during the season, but prior the season. So before the season starts, the season starts if a person is going for a tournament to play. For example, if you see in my Pondicherry state, so there are various categories like Ranji Trophy, under 19, under 23, under 14, and under 16 categories of cricket teams are there, where all those numbers are ages. So under 19 age category is one, and under 23 age category is one, and above under 23 is considered to be senior men's. So in which they'll be having different format of games. They'll be having T20, they'll be having one day, and they'll be having multi-days. So multi-days is a kind of a test match. So this happens in a period of 5-6 months, and before that they'll be practicing, or they'll be doing their strengthening, or they'll be doing some gym workouts to maintain their fitness. So during those gym workouts, if the person who's been practicing, like if for example, if he is a fast bowler and he's been doing a pre-season workout, anything that any conditioning workouts or strengthening that has been done before the season is considered to be pre-season training. So pre-season training, during those training, if he has followed some weird protocols of exercises or different set of protocols every day, he's not been doing a proper workouts, or if he's been doing improper workouts, or some using some improper form during the workouts, and those things will not be giving you a proper strength to your muscle. And some people tend to lift heavy weight so that they'll think that they'll get strength while lifting heavy weights. They get a lot of strength while bowling, but the thing is totally opposite. So when you are a fast bowler or when you want to be agile, you need to have a proper flexibility. When you do strength training like doing heavy weights, or if you start doing heavy weights, your flexibility will come down, in which you'll be concentrating on a hypertrophy of a muscle, so which will lead to tightness of the muscle, so that your flexibility will be coming less and will be reduced. And if the flexibility is reduced, automatically your joint will get stiff and your mobility will also be affected. So during those such conditions, if they start bowling during the season, if they start practice sessions will be in a light manner. Then they'll be giving you a particular number of workload during the practice sessions. So those times they'll be having small niggles. During the match, if they had to bowl 10 overs continuously, they'll be having a problem. Like they'll be having a small niggle starting around muscle, and slowly it aggravates to an injury. So this is why pre-season occurrence of this injury is most common. But during the season also it might occur. That is because of overuse. For example, if the bowler is being used for continuously for 7-8 matches and he's been bowling almost 30 overs per match, if he's been overused for every match, then he'll be more prone for that. So next one will be coming to the anatomy. So anatomy, we'll start with the origin. Origin is basically, it starts from iliac crust, inguinal ligament, thoracolumbar fascia. And the insertion point is the costal cartilages of lower foreribs and abdominal aponeurosis and linea alba. So action of this internal oblique muscle is trunk flexion, lateral rotation of the trunk, and lateral flexion of the trunk. So which lateral flexion, all these combination of movements will be happening in the bowling action. So that I'll be explaining you later. So every muscle has a classification of injuries. Basically, it has 3 grades, or you all must be knowing. First grade is the lesser muscle fibers will be affected, no loss of ROM or strength will be there. And the second grade, which will have a partial tear, significant swelling might be present, and injury, there'll be a mild loss of strength and ROM. And the next and the last grade is a complete tear, so which the muscle fiber will be completely torn from the tendon, and there will be loss of complete strength and ROM. So next one, symptoms. What happens? What will the player tell you about the injury? So first, he starts with a pain. Basically, every complaint that is going to start with pain. So he'll be having a sharp movement when he's doing a sudden movement. Okay. Next one, we will be having spasm over the muscle, and pain involving the muscle. So pain involving the movement of the muscle. So for example, as I told you, forward flexion, lateral rotation, all those movements will cause him pain. And what he does, he tries to touch that pain point. Usually what happens, I've seen a lot of players touching or palpating the pain spot and saying, sir, I have a pain at this particular spot. They start irritating the point, and it might lead to tenderness. And the major complaint that the player will be telling you is he'll be having pain while breathing and coughing or sneezing. So he'll be definitely having pain. This particular symptom will be found in grade 2 and grade 3. Grade 1, it is less common to find this symptom. And there will be bruising at the injury site. So the next one, we'll be talking about the mechanism. So mechanism of this injury is like, as I told you, he'll be going to bowl at the delivery point. He exerts a maximum eccentric contraction at that particular muscle. I forgot to tell you one thing. If that player is a right-arm bowler, he'll find the injury. He'll have the injury on the non-bowling arm, that is the left-hand side, because the stretch and the muscle will be eccentrically loaded in the non-bowling side. So that is what I have mentioned here. So the contraction will be happening at the non-bowling arm, that is fully flexed and suddenly extends or pulled through, allowing the bowler shoulder to flex to bowl the ball. That is the delivery area. So when he's going to deliver and the ball is being delivered, he'll go down and he tends to come back erect. So that point of time it happens. We can compare this to a simpler form of injury that is a tennis elbow, where we'll be having a tenderness at the extensor, common extensor origin, where we'll be having a tennis player playing the backhand shot, where he'll have to continuously do a extension and flexion of the wrist, where the common extensor origin point will be inflamed. So there also there is a sudden eccentric contraction happening at the muscle, which will load the tendon. And the next major thing is, like, you need to see what kind of a bowler he is. So there are three specific types of fast bowlers. So one, side on type, then front on, and mixed. So these three major specific bowling types of fast bowlers are there, where each and every type of fast bowler will be having a different mechanics of bowling. So his body will be aligned differently, and his delivery will be totally different. So I'll explain it now. The first one, before that, we'll tell you about the phases of bowling. So the biomechanics, basically you will have phases for walking or running. Same way you will have phases for bowling. First one starts with run up, where the bowler starts running from the from a point where he has been marked. So then the pre-delivery stride, and next next he goes to a mid bound, then his back foot contact, then the front foot contact, then the ball release, then the last phase of this is follow through, where the particular internal oblique muscle, see this region. So the internal oblique will be activated here, where he'll have that flexion, forward flexion and trunk rotation is there, right? So you can see all those activity of the internal oblique here. So this is where the point has to be noted. So for this, for finding this type of a bowler, we'll be finding what type of a bowler he is. We'll be having video analysis can be done. So we can take a video of that particular person bowling and take a video, and there are many softwares available. You can see view them, or experienced coaches and bowling technicians will be able to see that through naked eye, and they'll be we can ask them for help to find out the type of the bowler he is. So always we need to work as a team in sports to know to work together. We can get good results. So the first type of bowling is side on. So where side on bowling is characterized by the bowler looking forward, behind the front arm during the delivery stride. So the front arm is the left arm. So he uses the left arm. So for example, if he is a right hand bowler, so see this is the front arm. Rupesh, are you able to see my marker? This is the front arm. So where he will be using this arm to focus the stumps. So wickets is the stumps where he'll be focusing it, and the front arm during the side to sight the target. So the target is for now we'll take it as the stumps. If the target is the stumps, so he'll be using this arm to face the target. The side on bowling action is characterized by the shoulder alignment that points down the wicket. Wicket is the stumps. So stumps, they'll frame it as wicket. So like they'll be saying the wicket as the stumps. Okay. Wicket such that the angle is between the wickets and the line of joining the shoulders is 180 degree. So this and the wicket should be the angle should be 180 degree, and the rear foot position is being parallel to the popping crease. The popping crease is like you will be having two creases, the front one and the back one. The back one is a popping crease and the front one is a landing crease. Okay. The next one is low run-up speed is being characteristic that associated with the side-arm bowling action. And this type of bowlers are most recommended bowlers, where there are these type of bowlers are less injury prone, where their alignment of the body is right, and the movement is good, and free flow of the muscle will be there, and they'll be having a very smooth running action. For example, Dennis Lilly, who is a very great fast bowler. He has a very smooth and classic action of side-on action. So next one is the front on. The front on technique is characterized by high run-up speed. So he'll be running very fast towards the batsman or the wicket. Uh, where the near foot position is intended to direct to the ball of the target, where in which on the front on the side arm he'll be using the arm front arm for the direction, and here he'll be using the foot, rear foot, for the direction of the ball. The bowler will be delivering using the front on bowling technique, will look down inside the bowling arm. So from there he'll look down to the bowling arm, and the delivery straight to the side the target. He'll be using the opposite arm. For example, he'll be using the in front arm action. He'll be using the hand which he is carrying the ball. Okay, this causes the bowler's hip and the shoulders to open at the angle about 180 degree, more than 180 degree, resulting the bowler facing the batsman to at the release. So he'll be facing the batsman around more than 180 degree during the release. So this is how the front arm action can be classified. See, this is parallel, and he is using the ball on the right hand, which is the front back delivery arm to side the ball, and this is the delivery and the follow through. So next one is a mixed action. So mixed action is a kind of a complicated action where they'll be having uh, more of a combination of both front on and the side on action. Okay, this type of action is more prone for side strain. That is because if you see, compared to the previous, I'll show you. See how in the front on is back extension. See the back extension, and in the side on, see the back extension and the shoulder and the arm. See, the extension is like there is a hyperextension happening at the spine, and from there he goes for the delivery and goes for the follow through. So where in this particular action, the internal oblique muscle will be involved. Maximum eccentric load will be involved during this particular action. So that is why this type of bowlers are more prone for side strain. And this things all should be assessed during the camp, or the pre-season assessment should be done, and see what kind of a bowler it is, for just to note down and make sure that he doesn't have this kind of problems during the season. So investigation, basic investigation is a palpation, then it goes on to the muscle stress test. So next one is the radiology. This is one sagittal oblique muscle of the muscle slide of the internal oblique muscle, which is a normal anatomy. The internal oblique muscle, this is the internal oblique muscle, and this is the inserted point of the 11th rib of the internal oblique, and this one, the star mark, is the external oblique. So next one is the 23-year-old male, take MRI, who has a tenderness over here. See, same internal oblique muscle around the 10th or 11th rib, open arrow this point, he has a tenderness. See the difference? So this is the abnormal one, and see the normal one. So this is a tenderness spot at the internal oblique muscle. And the next one is that this is a 33-year-old male of fast bowler who has internal oblique muscle tear. See, internal oblique muscle. This one is the internal oblique muscle, and this one is the external oblique muscle. In between the internal and the external oblique muscle, you will be able to see the hematoma happening. So this is you can see this in MRI. And the third one is other cricketer who has a bowling injury, where this arrow shows the hematoma again at the internal oblique muscle. So again, a 33-year-old male. This is an echo image for which this image has been taken prior the surgery, where there is a hypertrophy of the muscle, which has been actually this echo has been taken after 3 months of the incident. So where you can see a hypertrophy or a mass and also a scar tissue formation around the muscle. Management. So basic management we are going to give is like first rest, then ice, and the next one is the ultrasound therapy can be given. You can use myofascial release, dry needling, taping, and cupping therapy. And rehab basically starts with isometric, then concentric, then the stage 3 goes to eccentric. Okay. So first one, strengthening. This is a phase like usually in sports rehabilitation, we give rehabs in phases or stages. So where the first phase goes for activation, second phase goes for mild resisted training, and the third phase goes for again little loaded resisted training, and the final stage will be going for return to sports criteria. We'll be having a separate assessment format for every injury or every major joint, and we'll be assessing them at that point to see whether they are fit to play again, or we have to prolong them for the rehabilitation. So the strengthening starts with this is a basic strengthening protocol, which will start with glute bridges, TA activation, plank, clamshells, and prone SLR, glute squeezes, and adductor squeezes, wall squats, lat rows, shoulder braces, all these. So I'll be for this I'll be stabilizing the glute, core, and the overall spine, because it is an interlinked muscle, and there is a lot of connection between those muscles. Just to make sure everything is fine, we need to stabilize the proximal and the distal joint. In this point of this, it is a spine, so we need to work on the whole spine to see whether it is good. And we'll also have to work on the hip mobility to make sure it, so that if you work on the hip mobility and the strengthening and the mobility and the stretching part will complete the phase of rehabilitation. For stretching, we'll basically give them piriformis, hamstring, glute. We can also add your lat stretch. Once if he is pain free, we can start loading all those lat stretch and other basic stretches can be given. And the phase 2 rehabilitation, crook lying, trunk rotation. You make the player to go on the crook lying and ask him to do trunk rotation with the use of his hip and the trunk. And you can go to a range where he is not feeling any pain. If he is not feeling pain, let him go for this comfortable range. Then clamshells. Clamshells is side lying crook lying, where you'll have to side lying. You'll have to open the knee hip abduction and adduction movement will have to happen. During that movement, you can use resistance band. This is one type of exercises to strengthen your glutes. And lateral walk with a loop band. Loop band is a band where it is a oval shape or a round shape, which can be which is also a kind of a TheraBand, which can be worn around your hip, or your thigh or your ankle during your exercises. So you need to wear this lateral walk. During the lateral walk, you can wear the loop band around your thigh and do a lateral walk. And squats with the loop band, SLR all four direction with the you can start with all four directions with resistance or without resistance. If he is comfortable with resistance, you can proceed with the resistance. And lateral SLR with the below the iliac crest. So he has to go on the side line. You have to place a pillow where his trunk is being flexed, laterally flexed, and ask him to do a lateral SLR, so that a hip forward flexion of around 10 to 15 degree. With that, forward flexion, you need to ask him to do a hip abduction adduction. So that particular muscle, the internal oblique or the external oblique, will be activated during that movement. And the trunk rotation and side flexion, train free with standing or sitting or kneeling. All these rotations can be done. Abdominal curls without pain. If he is not feeling any pain, we can start abdominal curls. Isometric hold with resistant band. So so trunk rotation with isometric hold. So where you need to hold a resistant band on your arm, rotate your trunk from the resistance and keep it in the neutral position and ask him to hold for 15 seconds. And the next one is side planks can be done, and lat pulls with resistance. You can proceed with lat pulls in the phase 2. So this is a basic hip mobility workouts that can be given. So basically, it glides your hip. It works on your piriformis. It works on your adductors, hip flexors, and your groin. So then the phase 3 rehabilitation, wood choppers workout can be given. So with all these things can be proceeded with resistance at phase 3. Then the trunk rotation with resistant band, where you can use a resistant band for rotating your trunk. Hold it with your hand, ask them to rotate and see. And side plank with rotation, that is one kind of a variation that you can go on to your side plank, and you can go for trunk flexion. Side flexion with weights, you can use a dumbbell or a barbell. Sorry, a dumbbell or a, sorry, please stop writing on the screen. And you can use you can ask them to do side flexion with weights such as dumbbell, resistant band, or a kettlebell can be given. Medicine ball throws. So medicine ball throws can be done during this particular medicine ball throws. Like you can ask them to throw while standing, or you can ask them to do medicine ball slams with trunk rotation. Oblique crunches can be done, and Russian twists can be done. And this is from now I'm going to tell you about the return to sports criteria. So which also has stages. So first, basically, we'll start with ROM test. We'll be comparing the right and the left side ROM, and side contraction test. We'll make him to stand in this position. This is the stage 1 of side pain contraction test. We'll ask them to start in this position, and we have to give the resistance at the elbow or the arm, and ask him to rotate, flex his trunk, so do a side flexion. So he has to contract the muscle. If he's not able to feel any pain, you can proceed to stage 2. Stage 2 is this. So abduct your arm up to 120 degree, and ask him to do the same movement, contract, and see how he feels. And if he is not able to feel any pain, if he is comfortable, you can proceed to stage 3, where he has to go for 180 degree of shoulder abduction, and the opposite side lateral rotation, so lateral flexion. And then you need to ask him to do a same side flexion and see if there is any pain at that point. So while contracting, if he's not able to feel any pain, and if he is comfortable, then he's good to go for the next level of test. So next one is the sit-up test or the crunches test. As I told you, the rotation internal oblique is going to work. So ask him to go for crook lying and do side crunches or twist while doing a side crunch. At that point of time, if he's not able to feel pain, he's good. The next test is the side plank on a bench. Ask him to do a side plank on a bench and see if he's having any pain. All these things should be done at the injury side. And you can also compare both sides for better correlation. And then the next one is side plank on one hands, like elbow straight. The next one is the end stage provocation test. So I was actually telling you about end stage provocation test. So end stage provocation test is a test where you'll be asking them to side flex on the injury side, and ask them to see if there is any pain during coughing and sneezing. So if they have any pain during coughing and sneezing, then we will have to reassess them again, and according to that, we need to schedule a rehab plan again, or we need to ask them to go return to play a little later according to the pain. Okay, so the next one is the side plank. Side plank will be asking them to do with the less base of support, with a single leg supported, with side plank with the hand, one single hand you can do. If that is pain free, we can progress to do side plank without support and with weights. And during without support also, we can ask them to do side flexion movement, and to see if there is any pain during the particular moment. If the player is not having any pain while doing side flexion without support plank, side plank, we can ask them to hold a medicine ball on his hand and see. For example, a weight can be given, a medicine ball can be given in his hand, and ask him to hold for some time, and see. And if he is able to do comfortably, ask him to hold the medicine ball first, and you have to stand exactly opposite him and ask him to throw. So, and see if there is any pain. If he is able to complete all these workouts or exercises without any pain, he is completely free to go. So these are all the set of things that has to be done. And apart from that, there will be a need for a sports physio on the field, making them to go and see a player with a side strain, and if he has to go on with the injury with the during the game, you are the first person to be addressed over there, and you need to make the right call whether the player has to continue the game, or he has to stop, or he has to make a substitute in place of him. So if this injury happens during a practice session, it is completely okay. You'll be having a plenty time to assess him, and you'll have to you can take a clean decision discussing with the coach and the match officials, and ask them to take a decision to the game. But if it happens during the game, when it happens during the game, you need to be precise with your assessment and make sure whether it is a side strain or a normal mechanical low back ache, or a disc bulge, or you might be also having another injury called as a stress fracture that happens to a fast bowler commonly. You need to be precisely sure which injury that you're going to handle, and according to that injury you need to make a call. So there are circumstances where, as a physio, you will have to allow a grade 1 injury player to continue the game during even if it happens to during the game, or even after the game. If it happens, you have to make them play, because if he is a vital player, you might need him during the game. For example, that particular bowler is the key bowler for the team, and he has to bowl during the match to get wickets. So he has to be on the field. You have to make a call whether he's been fit to play that match. If it is a grade 1 tear, or a grade 1 strain, or a grade 2 mild grade 2, you can take a concern with the player and the coach, and make a call to make him whether to play or not. And in my experience, I have handled a side strain who's a elite TNPL player, so who's an all-rounder, and he is a fast bowler. He had, as I told you, he had a previous history of overtraining, and because of that, the season, during the training camp, that is your practice sessions, before 10 days, 10-15 days of the tournament, we used to practice. During the practice session, he had a grade 2 side strain, and we made him to take an MRI, and that MRI showed that he had a grade 2 side strain, or internal oblique tear, and which due to the protocol, we had to make them to go and consult a doctor. So this is one of the major protocol that we have to follow during the tournament. We need to make them to go and consult to a doctor if required. then the doctor made him to the doctor asked him to take a rest for 3 weeks, which the TNPL tournament that we are handling was for 3 weeks, which is a T20 tournament which is happening for a short duration of time. So, and he was one of the main player for the team, and we and the coach, me and the player were asked by the management to make sure that he's fit before the season, and for that I specifically made some protocols for him. So he'll be having a secondary pain or some other issues. So according to that, we need to formulate specific protocols for a specific person. According to the injury, we can design a protocol, and exercise protocol can be was given for him, and we made him to do we made him continuous rehabilitation was monitored. Me as well as the team trainer was continuously monitoring him, and he was given treatment for every day before the tournament started. So after fortunately, with all good efforts of the team, we made him to play within 15 days, and he was able to play the first match of the season, and he was he didn't even complain about the pain till the end of the season. And till now, it has been almost a year. Till now, he hasn't come back to me for that particular injury. So for that, you need to make sure that your assessment is right. And if you are, excuse me, if you are not if you're not sure with the assessment, if you have any mild doubt, you're always free to go and consult to a better person to ask. You can ask your seniors, or you can consult with a sports medicine doctor, whomever you know, just to make sure that the things are right. And according to the discussion, you can come to a proper conclusion and design a proper exercise protocol for him. Any questions from your side, please? Any doubts?
Sir, if questions are there in the chat box.
I'll start from the first. If the player is not fully recovered, this is from Mr. Nikhil. If the player is not fully recovered and he need to play, so kinesio tape will be helpful. Yes, definitely. We made him, as I told you, taping I've mentioned during my presentation. So taping is one thing that can be definitely given. So you have to make sure that internal oblique muscle has been like it has been taped properly. And I also used dynamic taping techniques, which gave me better result for this. So dynamic taping techniques gave me a better result than kinesio taping for me. So next one is what green flags that a player can go back to the field post injury during the match. So if it happens during the match, and what happens is, like, we'll ask him, we'll basically check what are the symptoms that he has. If it is a grade 1, I will definitely, grade 1 or a mild grade 2, definitely I'll make sure that he's been taped properly, and I'll be giving him some painkillers. Obviously, we need to administrate them during the field. There will be a doctor available at the ground. With this consultation, we'll be giving him painkillers, and with that we can make him to play. If it is a grade 3 or things that, if it is a grade more, it is a grade 3. If it is a grade 3 injury, definitely I'll ask him to stay back. So as I told you, that is what taping will be done, and we'll be making him to come into the. There is a thing that can be followed in cricket. If the injury is on field, if the match is going on, and he has an injury during the match, he can come in and go out any number of times. This rule does not apply for T20. Okay. So if it is a multi-day match, this rule can be, this is one thing that can be useful for us. We can make him to come and go out in between the, we can give him a proper rest in between the bowling time, and we can make him to bowl. So all these precautions will be made sure. that one particular thing can be done during the match only. So, Mr. Uday, what techniques can be preferred? What techniques can be prescribed for pain relief if there is a on-field site grade 1? So what all technique? I'll be doing a basic myofascial release. I'll be doing a myofascial release. I'll not touch the pain spot. I'll be releasing the surrounding muscles and see how he's reacting, and I'll be taping him. And as I told you, I'll be giving him some set of some painkillers, and I'll ask him to go for that. And if it is a multi-day match, if he's going to play for 4 days, end of the day I'll be giving him icing, and ultrasound will be there at the room at the clinic, and we can use the ultrasound, and we'll be giving them off the field for preparation for the next day.
The question is here from Sansi Khara. Can you please explain how myofascial release can be used in treatment?
So myofascial release is, as I told you, if the pain is there, if the pain is at the internal oblique origin, I'll not be releasing at the internal oblique origin. I'll be releasing the surrounding structures of the muscles. I'll be working on the extensors. I'll be working on the quadratus lumborum. I'll be working on the thoracolumbar fascia, and I'll be working on the hip. I'll be releasing the surrounding structures and make sure there is no load over the internal oblique muscle, so that if the load is not going to that particular muscle, then we can go on. Obviously, that myofascial release will be helpful.
Next question is, what's the method of doing dynamic taping?
Sorry, whose question is that?
Some Rajat Jain.
Sorry, Mr. Rajat Jain, we are not here to discuss about dynamic taping techniques. I'm not here to take techniques. So for that, you need to attend dynamic taping workshops to know about that. Sorry for that. So next question
is, what are all the precaution measures while checking return to play assessments?
So as I told you, we had a lot of exercises or things that we discussed. A side plank, provocation test, side plank with support, without support. I've been telling you, I've given you a lot of exercises that can be tested before certifying him to returning to the game.
Next question is from Panduranga Rao. Is there any probability of bilateral involvement of internal oblique muscle? Maybe a very rare scenario, but can any mechanism which can lead to this scenario?
Actually, this is not possible, because that particular muscle is being eccentrically contracted on the non-bowling arm. And as you say, it might be very rare. I have not encountered any such cases so far. So if I come to know, definitely I'll update you on this.
Next question is, at the time of important matches like World Cup, he had grade 2. Can the player continue the tournament?
That's what it depends. If it is a mild grade 2, and if he's able to support with taping and painkillers, if he's able to do, if he's comfortably able to bowl, then we can. If it is a World Cup, you'll be having a team of support staff working for you. You'll be having a team doctors will be there, and the ground doctors will be there, and the physio will be there. So all those things will be, they'll have a team discussion and see if everything is going good, and if they'll have to check them properly. And if it is on field, this can be done. This will be done. So we'll discuss and see if he's comfortable. We'll give him a painkiller. Even sometimes there are people taking painkiller injections to get a better, faster relief, and they go into the field, and that can be done. Yeah, if it is a mild grade 2, definitely we can consider if the player is okay and the coach is okay. But for the next match, if he's going to go for the next match, if the symptoms are aggravated, then we need to rest him.
Tanmay Power has asked for some suggestions of good books for sports injuries.
I'll share you in the group here. I'll share you all the details in that group. I'll share the books and articles that for the reference in the group.
Will the back to game assessment will be same as the one we do for the injury assessment?
Sorry, will be the
Will the back to
yeah, you
game
can use
assessment?
both. You can use both. You can use both. It's all the same. But during the injury, you cannot give all the exercises that have been that we discussed for the return to sports criteria, because he'll be having pain. He'll be having discomfort. So you'll not be able to give the same exercises that we discussed for return to sports criteria that cannot be given for initial assessment.
Next question is from Anjali Parmar. What is the primary treatment when bowler is injured, twist leg, rotation of tibia, ice pack, and can he or she can come back with traction, opposite rotation, and fixed by sports step?
Sorry,
Can it
this
be?
is not the topic for the day. Sorry, this is not the topic for the day.
I think that's all the questions. Any more questions from participants?
One more question is there.
One more question is there. Read that.
While doing
Yeah.
side plan test, will you be having pain
No.
on the same? That's it. That is one.
No, sir.
There is a question from Dr. Vincent Jairaj. Due to quarantine, players are not active in sports. Any advices not to go for deconditioning?
So for now, in our Pondicherry Association, we are having same kind of Zoom meetings for the players. So we have been selected 80 to 100 players in every category, and we have been conducting Zoom meetings for technical sessions, fitness session, and rehab and prehab. So what we did is, like, we collected all the data from them. We gave a self-assessment format or a questionnaire to them, and made them fill that questionnaire. And our trainer had given them a self-assessment protocol for the core strength, shoulder stability, and all. So they have to complete all the self-test, and they were asked to send all those reports back to us, and we had monitored all those things. And according to that, we schedule a lot of upcoming meetings. We are scheduling a lot of techniques that we've been giving them a lot of advices on Zoom meetings to maintain their conditioning. So if a person who was reported with a specific injury will be given a separate protocol. If he's going for a general fitness or strengthening or conditioning, the trainer will be handling him, or the prehab and the rehab will be handled by the physio. That is what we have been doing, sir.
Okay, the next question is, while doing side planks, will he be having pain on same side or the opposite side?
Definitely he'll be having at the same side, because he'll be contracting the same side of the muscle, right? So if he's not going to have any pain on the site of injury, why will he be feeling pain? If he feels pain on the non-affected side, either he might be doing the exercises wrong, or he might be loading somewhere else.
Okay. The next question is, can you repeat the front on type of bowling?
So the front arm technique is characterized by high run-up speed. So the bowler will be starting to run from the running point with a high run-up speed, and the rear foot position that points the intent to the direction of the ball traveling to the release. So the foot will be placed in a direction where the ball is going to travel. Okay, so if he's placing the foot at one point straight, the ball will have to go. Ball will be traveling at the same say. For example, if the foot is being placed here in this direction, facing the batsman, the ball will be going towards that direction. If there is any mild change in the angle, then there will be an angulation change. The ball will go on inside or outside. That kind of changes will happen according to the foot release. The bowler, when the delivering using the front arm bowling technique will look down the inside. So inside of the bowling arm. So you'll be bending forward and see the bowling arm. So you'll be seeing the bowling arm. For example, if he's bowling on the right arm, you'll be seeing the bowling arm while the at the side of so that bowling arm will be facing the target. In side on technique, the non-bowling arm, the left arm will be facing the side of target. In this bowling technique, the bowling arm will be facing the target. Okay, and this causes the bowler's hip and the shoulders to open to angle of exceeding more than if it is within 180 degree, it is side on. If it is exceeding more than 180 degree, it is front on. Okay, and resulting the bowler facing the batsman to during the release of the ball. So this is what the front arm action is. Are you clear, boy? Are you clear?
I hope so. The person will get cleared. The next question is: the player was used the right hand for bowling, but he had pain in left hand. Role of physio on field. What it is?
The player was used the right hand for the bowling and had a pain in the left hand. Then the role of physio.
It's a hand pain. Actually, we are talking about side strain.
Yeah. Okay. It is an internal oblique injury in which mixed action bowlers are more common. Less than age of 23 are more common. They'll be having pain in the site of injury and the pain during the action of the movement. So action of the muscle and action of the muscle. Then you'll have pain during coughing and sneezing, tenderness at the pain point. And there are 3 grades: grade 1 mild tear, grade 2 partial tear, grade 3 complete tear. Then radiology, where you can assessment, investigation. You can go for palpation and muscle resistant test. Then you have to go for radiology. Then coming back to after radiology, you'll have to see what phase he is. According to that, you need to tell him how much time you have to take rest, and you have to give him you can use any techniques for rehabilitation. For example, myofascial release, taping, dry needling, cupping. All those techniques can be used. You need to use the appropriate technique for the appropriate person to get appropriate result. And you can use a proper rehabilitation protocol should be formulated. So rehabilitation format or design for rehabilitation has to be injury specific and player specific to get better result. Okay, that is mandatory. I've given a tentative or a format of rehab, but you with your good exercise therapy knowledge and biomechanical knowledge, you need to formulate and you have to build your own exercise protocol to make sure that you set a trademark for your name. That is more important. Okay. So after that, rehabilitation, pre-assessment and post-assessment, and check all. I've given a lot of series of exercises to see whether he is fit to play, and all the fit. If he's compelling all the fit to play criteria, then you can ask him to go for continue the game, or else you can extend the rehabilitation session protocol and extend the session of rest, and then make sure that he clears all the checklist of the return to sports criteria, and then make him to play. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Vaira.
Yes, sir.
You are answering to all the questions and politely. Thank you for your patience.
I thank everyone. I thank everyone for your patience. And this is my team of physios who are working with me. This is Dr. Viknesh, and you would be knowing Dr. Rupesh, who had given a wonderful session about Pilates, and our unsung hero, Mr. Dr. Chandramohan, who's been helping us to teach and share our knowledge and work as a team, build as a team. Definitely, you will get a better result. That is the take-home message from every workshop that we organize. And thank you all.
Thank you all. Bye bye.